was going to go straight home and I was going to start doing all this stuff. I was going to get all these papers together and start getting ready to execute my day, where I was getting really wound up for a really powerful day. And instead, I decided to stop off at the city park where I ride my bike. It's like I don't know, depends, I guess, how far you go in either direction, but it's probably like a 30-mile long trail going both ways. So I just came here and I started to walk. I was like, I have a lot of work to do today, lots of stuff to catch up on, but I said, you know what, I need to prioritize that stillness because I didn't this morning. I went downstairs to meditate like about maybe 7:30, 7:40, and I sat there for about a minute. I just wasn't feeling it, so I just got up. I said, forget it. I'm not going to force myself to do it if I don't feel like it. But still, it's kind of like the way I like to start my day is by having stillness, right? So if you wake up first thing in the morning and you grab your phone and you start looking at things, you start looking at your calendar, you start texting people back, start reading emails, and you didn't take out crop out that little minute for stillness, your day goes different. Your whole entire day, your whole layout goes different. It's like the whole day crashes into itself and it feels normal because you probably do it every single day, right? But if you start out that morning with that stillness, it's part of our 10 commandments for our group. If you don't have a copy of the 10 commandments, maybe Daniel could put a link in the chat. You can definitely use the search bar in the $1 Million Mastermind group, but you should start out your day with stillness. And really, it's like us as human beings, we want to have progress by doing activity, right? We want to see marked, notable progress, right? And I even preach it inside of our sales group. But we still prioritize stillness first. And I think something happens in your brain where it's like if you just sit down for a few minutes when you wake up in the morning instead of jumping into your day first, it's like you honor that time with yourself, right? You honor that stillness within you, right? And that's when you can hear the voice of God, is when you just sit down and stop having activity, right? You're not going to go make a cup of coffee. You're not going to go grab your favorite book. Just, head to a quiet spot if possible, if at all possible, even if it's inside of a closet, and then just sit there in stillness, maybe for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever that is. And it really does make something open up. It's like if you visualize your day going amazing, right? And you just imagine, hey, I got to go to the office in a minute. I got to go to this meeting. I got this showing. If you can just find like that inner stillness, I look for peace, right? That's what I look for in the morning. I'm trying to find that stillness, the peace, even though I have a million things to do. It's like, I'm going to sit quietly by myself for a minute and I'm going to lay out the perfect day in my mind, right? And even if you're thinking about nothing, if you're praying, whatever you're doing, I just sit, find the stillness, find peace, and then I imagine what a perfect day might look like. And I'm like, well, on a perfect day, I'm going to end up going here. I'm going to be extra early. I'll be on time. Things are going to go amazing. The deal's going to close. The person's going to say yes. And I just kind of imagine what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like. And that's kind of how I like to start my day. It's kind of like seeing the future, right? But you're not like remote viewing. So we're not like fortune telling, right? We're not seeing the future in that sense. But when you do get to that meeting and it does go the way you imagined it that morning, then you're kind of wondering, like, does this happen all the time? Like, is it possible for us to do this all the time? To have imagine these amazing, beautiful futures and for them to become true over and over and over again? Can you always do this? I don't know. But every time I've sat down and tried, it sure did work. It sure does work. So that's why I really like to force myself to have stillness. Like even right here, even just getting to the park again, like I get myself wound up because I have a million things to do. So I start to build up the energy in my body and then bam, I work all day long for 16 hours straight without taking a break. And then I also know when to shut it down. I mean, I do take naps during the day. So if I am going too fast, I'll be like, okay, phone's off, lights off, everything. I'm going to take a nap for 30 minutes or an hour. Then I'll be back. But before I got to the park, I was feeling that kind of that energy building inside me. Like I was getting ready to just destroy the day. And I said, wait a minute. I didn't find stillness. I didn't slow down. And so, I pulled over at the park. Now I'm here, I'm walking. It's absolutely beautiful out here. Nice and cool. Everything's wet. Birds singing. And I would have never experienced this like amazing moment of walking in this park if I didn't stop and force myself to just honor that moment. And now I have a whole different feeling in my body. I still feel like I'm going to have a killer day, but it's not wound up like coffee energy, right? It just feels like I already know what's about to happen next because I slowed down. I got my nervous system in alignment, and now I'm ready to kill it. So that's what I wanted to talk about today is how you can take control of your mind and your body. And there's a lot of different things that you can do, right? So I don't know if there's a one correct way to do it. So if somebody asks me, like the other day I was feeling silly at the Renaissance Festival, and I just made this flexing picture, and my wife took a picture and I posted it on Facebook, and people were messaging me like, hey, tell me about your workout routine. And
this show is sponsored by HiveMind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the HiveMind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings, and of course to get our $1 course on how to make more than 6 figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at hivemindcrm.io.
So if somebody asks me, how do you get fit? There's not one answer. I couldn't give you 1 or 2 or 3 things, and I'll say this is the strategy. It's a culmination of everything. So same thing with your business, with your mind, honoring yourself, honoring your mind. It's not exactly one thing, right? So we talk about prayer and meditation in our group for the 10 Commandments, but there's also just the stillness, right? Just pulling over and walking at the city park for a little while, just to bring stillness into your body. You can also do it through fasting. Right. So we're always so busy, like eating something, shoving something in our mouth when you might not even be hungry. Right. But it's just a habit. It's already, hey, it's 8 p.m. and I want to shove something in my mouth because I haven't done it since noon. And that's weird reasoning, but that's a programming we have, right? As humans, is we do things and they're kind of running on autopilot. So the way that I like to imagine it is that we're pretty much machines, right? We're like cyborgs. And we have this programming that we're running on, and we don't even know where the programming came from in some cases. It might have come from our parents, from conditioning, from a school teacher who was really nice or really mean, right? So we're running on all these programs, and we don't even know where is this information coming from? Why do I have these behaviors, and why do I have these habits? Where did they come from, right? And if you never stop to think about it, some people are running programs and they don't even know they're running it. Right? Like even just like drinking coffee for no reason. It doesn't even give me energy. It makes me tired. Energy drink, same thing. But you have this programming and we're doing these habits and behaviors with no explanation. And if you never stop to examine what those behaviors are, then how can you ever like kind of try to tweak it? Right. And then I know we all have habits, but some of them you like, some of them you do not like, right? Like exercise, right? That's a habit that I have. I love it. I have to do it. If I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, then I would immediately interrupt my day and I go grab my bike and I'm walking at the park, riding my bike at the park. I did 16 miles yesterday. I didn't quite hit 16. I was like 15 and a half. So I don't want to cap too much, but it's just like, if you have habits and you never stop to identify what they are, then you don't know which kind of behaviors you need to modify. That's step 1, right? Is identifying what needs to be changed or what kind of changes you can make, right? And it could be quitting smoking, or it could be lowering your sugar intake, getting more body movement in, right? Just maybe after you eat and you go walk. So if you want to form a new program, right? If you want to have a new way living, being, existing, you don't want to make too many changes at once, right? So you don't want to stop eating sugar, stop watching TV after 7, and, have 4 or 5 new behaviors all at once. If you just start with one at a time, then it's easiest to have those new behaviors programmed in. And sometimes it's dropping something, right? So you say, hey, I'm going to drop alcohol and I'm going to add, 50 grams of protein a day or 100 grams of protein a day, right? So you can have where you remove something and add something, but you don't want to add or make 4, 5, 6 changes all at once. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions on any of this so far? Any comments? Anything you've experienced similar to this?
Frank says most people's programming comes from how they're raised by their parents and who are likely raised with odd programming also, and it continues back before that as well. And then he says, thoughts leads to feelings, feelings lead to action, action leads to results.
Boom. Yep. I love it. That's another thing that the way that you can create that change is you look for the feeling, right? And I know it sounds really cheesy. I've read it in a lot of books, but nobody ever stops to explain it, right? And the only way you could really learn it is by practicing it. So if you sit down in your meditation time or your prayer time in the morning, and if you can feel the feeling of what it would feel like to be where you want to be, right? And maybe this is in a body that's in better shape. Maybe this is in a relationship, that you're seeking, or maybe a relationship you want to get out of. You have to feel the feeling of what it's going to feel like when you're in that new spot. And you can't get there, right, if you're doing so much activity. If you're doing your day-to-day activities and you're moving and moving and moving, you're hustling, going throughout your day, but you never stop to feel anything, then you're running on these automatic chemical signals, right? Because when you feel a certain way, there's a certain response. Then you do the next thing, So we're always responding to chemical stimulus, right? And sometimes it's a form of cortisol, right? Like adrenaline. This is why I'm real anti-coffee, even though I love it. It creates a massive cortisol response. And, I don't know if it's healthy to be in a stress-induced response 24/7. Maybe occasionally, sure. But I think you shouldn't probably be on any chemical 24/7, right? And then claim to have your own thoughts. So if you're going to feel the feeling of being in a new relationship or being successful in business, you have to be able to feel that feeling. The hardest thing is when you're not in a position like, how could I feel wealthy or successful if I'm so far away from there? But here's the thing. When you're doing business, when you're making phone calls, when you're working and just trying to get to that place, that higher place, you're going to have to feel that feeling anyway, right? Sooner or later, that feeling is going to have to become real for you. So you can imagine, well, what might it feel like? I'm not there yet, right? So the next feeling up from there is what might happen. What might I feel like if I was successful? And that's the next stage of feeling above, like that despair, like I don't know how I'm ever going to get there. And if you can feel that feeling in your body, like, you know what, when things are going perfect and I do have the right amount of cash in the bank and the right amount of cash flow, it's probably going to feel just like this. But when you sit down with that stillness, that's where you get into that neutral state, right? You put your nervous system into, like when you put your car in neutral, you put your nervous system into a neutral state, and then you can reach for another state, right? But not until you're in neutral, right? You can't go from drive straight to reverse. You got to go into neutral first. Same thing with your nervous system. So if you have a overtaxed, overstimulated nervous system, and then you're trying to create and imagine new behaviors or new feelings, it'll be very hard to access if you haven't put your nervous system first into neutral. And that's that state of stillness, peace, calmness, meditation, being with God, the Bible says, in the presence of God, right? That's where that stillness comes from. And once you're in that still state, then you can imagine higher futures and better futures.
Hector says, I think, and feel the things I want it like I have it, and then it starts to happen.
Yeah, so here's let's put a magnifying glass on that, right? If you imagined yourself eating pizza, you'd open up your cell phone and then you'd order it, and then it'd be there, and then you'd eat the pizza, right? So you manifest, I don't like to use that word really, but you kind of do this all day long. You imagine things to become true, and then they become true. But when it comes to your business or something that you love life, something that you assume is a very high target, like you value it as a high target, then automatically, again, for whatever reason, people assume that doing big things is very, very difficult, right? So you can imagine a pizza and it shows up, but then sometimes it's a little bit harder for you to imagine having a very successful business, a blossoming business. But it's the exact same thing. It's the exact same process of imagination, right? Because if you are running the perfect business, what does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? Who works for you? How many hours are you working a day? But if you never stop to imagine all that stuff, then how would you ever get there? Right? It's like the business fairy going to knock on your front door and say, hey, I'm going to structure everything perfectly for you. Or would it make more sense for you to sit there, imagine every little minute detail of the business that you're going to build, and then start to put it all into place immediately, right? So it's just the same thing. That anything that you want to imagine, you have to first feel it. You have to first think about it, and then look for the feeling that matches with that. And then you'll notice that it starts to show up more and more. Anybody want to add anything to that or share a similar experience?
Frank also says he got those secrets from The Millionaire Mind by Harv Eker, and proved to me that I can.
Harv Eker.
Yeah, there you go.
He wrote Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, and it's mind-blowing book. And it fits everything y'all just said.
I've heard of that one. I know it's one of the books that's been pushed around through time. So I think I found the audio on YouTube one time. I've been meaning to listen to it at least once. I did a lot of Think and Grow Rich. It's kind of funny because I was in a pretty bad place in my life, like financially, everything, physically, and I was at home, and I remember just thinking like that. The name of that book kind of just Think and Grow Rich, and I'm like, I wonder why I thought of that particular phrase in that order, and it struck me as kind of like, I wonder what that means. So I Googled it, and I found out that it was a book. And this is like years before my self-help journey started. And I went straight to the library and I bought it. I bought the audio version at a bookstore. And I put it in my computer. And I listened to that book probably like 50 times or more, over and over and over again. Something that the author said is like, he said, every time you read this book, you're going to pick up something else. You're going to pick up something else. And I thought, well, it's pretty hard to believe. Once you listen to it, read it 2-3 times, you should be pretty good. But I guess kind of what I did realize after listening to it that many times, never read it, is that this information builds on top of itself, right? So when you get up to the next level, where you're able to imagine things and create, the kind of life you want, you learn that there's other levels to it too, right? And those you can share with other people. It kind of builds on top of itself. So I think that's the depth of the information continues to loop inward on itself, because it does get deeper and deeper as you learn more. And then when you experience more, then you're looking with a more powerful lens, I guess is a way to say it. So then you can kind of squeeze some more juice out of everything. It's pretty cool. Really love that book. If you haven't read it or listened to it, I recommend everybody checks out Think and Grow Rich. It's like a timeless classic. Does anybody have anything that they want to cover? Maybe a habit you would like to change or something that you want to take a look at? We could talk about that. I've been rambling on for a little while.
I wanted to share this YouTube audio that I listen to just about every week. It's called The Strangest Secret in the World by Earl Nightingale. It's a 30-minute audio on YouTube where they speak exactly about what you're talking about, Anthony. He calls it the strangest secret in the world, and the difference between a successful man and a not successful man. And it talks about it, that it's all about thinking about how you're going to plan your day and your habits. It's very, very mind opening. Very, very great audio there to listen to. Just wanted to share it with y'all.
What is it called?
The Strangest Secret in the World.
Do you have a link for it you can drop in the chat?
Yeah, I just did.
Oh, perfect, dude. Thank you.
It's about 30 minutes, but it's great, man. It's gold.
I think that one's is that Earl Nightingale?
Yeah, that's Earl Nightingale.
Okay, cool. Yeah, man. The guy was like I guess he was on the radio years ago, and yeah, he was like he was a YouTuber of that day, right? He's like famous, letting out this famous information, powerful information.
Oh yeah, it's a type of programming. It's the programming that you make yourself eventually.
This made me. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Basically, what you were saying made me think of. I know in Book of Psalms, I think it's chapter 46. It says, "Be still and know that I am God," or something like that. So it's definitely. Even from my experience meditating, there's always some sort of benefit in just sitting still and, listening to your breath and such. And a lot of these self-help books really are inspired by the Bible, if I may add.
Yeah, and I know you got to be careful with the information that you read, like anything else, right? The music you listen to, it all creates these subconscious programming. But yeah, all this stuff is biblical, right? It's not like we're not doing The Secret and making all this magic happen with our superpowers. It's not like that. But I think the thing where there's overlap and lots of overlap is it kind of depends on what, like your perception of creating reality, right? So the way that me as a Catholic, as a Christian, likes to imagine that, God helps me create my reality is through prayer and meditation, right? And some people might not believe in that. It's amazing. But there's one quote, I always mess quotes up, so I'm going to get close enough for you guys, though. It was Mother Teresa. She was being interviewed by, I'm going to forget the guy's name. I think Dan Rather. It's like one of the biggest TV show hosts ever of all time, interviewing Mother Teresa. And he said, well, what do you say when you pray? And she said, this is on live TV. She's like, what do you say when you pray? And she says, I don't say anything. I just listen. And then he said, well, then what does God say? And she said, nothing. He just listens. And I thought, man, that's probably the most powerful few sentences I've ever heard in my life, is because it's not about what we can do or what we're creating in this world. It really is just like doing God's work. Before business started to get really good for me, maybe about, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, 10 years ago, my biggest prayer to God was like, hey, if you don't, because the business was struggling, it was always up and down. I was like, if you don't want me to be super, super successful or rich, like just take it all away. I'll start at zero. I'll go be a missionary. I'll go to Mexico. Just as long as you lead the way, you tell me what to do. And then from there, that's when things started to go really good. I think God just knows, like, I'm not the Lambo guru. I don't think about stuff like that. It's just the way that I've been for a long time. And so to me, like creating a powerful business, it's more like it's our responsibility to the people that are around us, right? Like to protect your tribe, to protect your people. So it's not like, hey, let's get super wealthy so that we can have flash and show it. And, we think we're all rappers now, but it's like the more cash you have on hand and the more leverage you have, the more impact you could make on a global scale. We see what's happening around the world right now with the war going. And this is like injustice that's been happening around the planet for 1,000 years. That's been going like just swept under the rug by media, this kind of stuff. But when the power's in our hands, when the media is in our hands, when the resources in our hands, can we win the war against, something so dark, right? I don't even know if there's like these dark overlords around the world. I don't even know if that's true or not. But if there was a way for us to fight back, it is by us having access to capital and resources at scale, all of us, and not just a little bit of capital, like an obnoxious amount. So that's where I'm headed. I'm headed to a place where, it's not about, we don't have any goals of doors and cash flow. My goal is like, can I activate 5,000 or 10,000 people and help them become extremely wealthy beyond imagination, so that now our voting power matters. Our ability to move resources at scale matters, where we can have global impact. And that's what I think about. That's what I'm trying to figure out. How can we get this thing bigger than it's ever going to be? And I think that's why it was called the Hive Mind. It's like, it's not going to be me by myself. There's going to be a lot of us that are like me and better than me that are going to make this happen. So people, like I was hanging out with Aaron Bevins at the conference here at the HBHS thing, and we were just talking. He's like, man, 3 conversations I've had in this building. There's like 600 people there. He's like, Robert Wensley, who runs an investor lift, like a billionaire dude. And then some other guy, and me. He's like, and you. He's like, these are the 3 most powerful conversations that I've had at this event. And I'm not talking about anything other than like imagining a scale that I would like to see this business get to. And again, that's like being able to imagine upwards to such a high level that it doesn't matter the kind of I don't want to say the collateral damage doesn't matter because I'm not going to do anything bad to get there, but all those little details of how we could put this thing together become insignificant when the picture's that big, right? And it's not wishful thinking, right? That's why we went with like a MLM type model. Is that we want to get a lot of people involved, we want to run a lot of traffic, and we want to help a lot of people get very wealthy, right? And that was the game. It's like, because anybody could make themselves rich. That's pretty low target, but can you make 5,000 or 10,000 people around you wealthy or more? Right? We're going to give it a try. We're going to give it a run, and I think we've done pretty good so far.
I think it's funny how he realized that he was thinking too small.
Yeah, even him, and he's a big thinker. I mean, guys, he's brilliant. He'll become a famous musician. I promise you, if he pursues that path for himself. But even he was like, I'm thinking way too small. He's like, maybe you need to start hanging out more. So I think that comes with the conditioning, the programming, right? Being able to imagine things happening at scale like that, just on that impact. But why do you want to have it? Right? I think that's another thing, is what drives you. And that'll dictate the size of mountains that you could move. It depends what you're driven by. And for a lot of people, it's not cash, right? A lot of people they're just not really that much into money. But even this is what I teach my kids. I'm like, I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care what you want to get into or what kind of anything. I just don't want you to have to sell your hours to somebody else. That's my main thing for you. So I still want them to learn how to do business. I still want them to learn how to do 1 or 2 deals a year, and that pays everything else off they want to do. But now they could have impact in anything they want to have impact in. Like if you want to be the biggest rescuer of this species that's about to go extinct, well, at least you know how to drive it. You know where the fuel comes from, right? From doing a business similar to this one. And we like land because they're big hits, or big significant hits. So by the time this thing is up and running and there's hundreds or thousands of transactions happening per month, then we'll have a lot of resources to push any agenda that we want to push. That's what we're headed for. So having a goal of saying, hey, I want to own 1,000 acres, or I want to own 500 apartment complexes, that's a very low significance on a global scale, right? So that's why we don't have targets like that. We want to know, how can we drive traffic to 50,000 people and have closings with those people all happening inside of the same organization, right? On these deals that are $1 million, 5 million, 3 million, 2 million, and not just 1 or 2 deals a month. Like, what if we could get it to the point to where inside of the whole organization, we're doing thousands of deals like that? Is it possible? For sure. Do we know how to build it out right now? No, but we're building it. So that's kind of what I wanted to get on here and talk about, is if you do want to have changes, how big or how small of a change does it need to be? How big or small do you want it to be? And then how do you get there, right? What moves the needle in your life? How important is something to you, right? And I think that'll dictate how easy or how hard it'll be to see those changes.
Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I posted a link to the audiobook for free on YouTube into the group, not in the chat on here, because that'll disappear. Posted it to the group, and I'm going to tag it so that it stays at the top, because it actually covers largely. I've got both the audiobook and started off with that, and then eventually ended up with a physical copy that has got so much highlighted color in it. It isn't funny, because every time I read it, I see something different, or something different speaks to me. And it's a step-by-step on how to achieve a lot of what's been talked about here. I mean, we can pray, we can meditate, but the biggest thing it requires, and what's working in this group, is after we pray and meditate, we take action. God gives us ideas through the universe, but if we don't take action, we don't get results. Plain and simple. Together, we can do a lot of what I can't. That's all I got. Everything you've said, or everything you've spit so far is just absolute fire, Anthony. Absolutely love it. Appreciate this surprise.
I think the fact that we have a strong team that believes in God and supports each other as much as we do makes a big difference as well. Sometimes, you may not start your day off right, or you may not start your day off, meditating or whatever, because again, we stay working. Our mind stays working. We wake up working. And what Celissa did for me the other day, or I think it was yesterday, we were talking about business on the phone, and then we kind of got off track. And, we all have those moments, right, of stress, of just being on the go, go, go. And she said, hey, you know what? Let's stop for a minute. Let's stop for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and grab one of my random devotional cards, and we're going to go ahead and read this together and do this together. So having that teammate that, knows what our team needs and takes that time to actually meditate along with you, it's very, very powerful. So if you cannot only take the time to do it by yourself, but do it with one of your team members, it's great, because both of y'all are aligned to that same vision and mission and purpose that both of y'all have. And this is how we scale up. This is how we level each other up, with that same mindset. So that's why I said, we have tunnel vision, and that big faith in what we believe in, makes a huge difference. So both of those things kind of come, hand in hand. We may not start, our day. We may have those days where we don't start our day off, right, because again, we just hop out of bed and get to the nitty gritty and stuff like that. But it is very important to kind of take a moment, even if it's not by yourself, but with a team member, to kind of have that time, that reflection, that meditation, that, prayer in a sense, time, because that makes a huge difference on how the rest of your day goes, or how the rest of your week goes. I read a quote the other day on Facebook that said, force yourself to pray because something's forcing you not to. And that stuck with me, because I was like, oh my God, like, I don't wake up praying every day. I may not pray every day. I may not read the Bible every day, which, I do consider myself a Christian, but I'm not perfect either. You know what I mean? Again, we get into that routine or that cycle of just being on the go, go, go and working all the time, that, we just keep going and going and going. And that stuck with me, because I was like, yeah, that is very important. Maybe something is stopping me from actually, praying or meditating or having that one-on-one time on my end here. So it's very powerful to be able to do that, not only by yourself, but also with people that have that same belief as you. And this team is very, very powerful. I believe in everything that Anthony is saying. This team is only going to the top. I know Celissa and I and also Nisha have built, our team as well. And it's amazing how things just start snowballing for you when you surround yourself with solid, good people. So very thankful, very grateful for that.
Awesome words for sure. I think Anthony is tied up with something for a minute, so they asked me to take over. Does anybody else have any thoughts or feelings on this? Has this stirred anybody's minds to, oh my God, I was just thinking this? Like, I'll just throw in, Marvin just found a deal somewhere, and it's a little larger, and it's not so much that the size of the deal bothered me or shocked me at all. No problems there. But the price per acre is a little high. But oddly enough, the way I worded it, let's see here. So Marvin reached out to me with this new one, over 100,000 an acre. Do we even want to try and get them down to numbers that we think we can work with, or do we want to try and expand our minds with what we think we can work with? At this point, I hadn't looked at Facebook. I looked at Facebook right afterwards because an alert popped up. And that's where I saw that this live was starting. And it's funny that I was thinking that way, because that small-minded mentality, which goes against completely everything that the ways that I try to think. And then I get in and see this and hop in, and it was God answering before I'd even asked the question technically, because Anthony had already been moved to have this call and to have this discussion and to try and light a fire in those who saw it and chose to show up, chose to hear the message, hear the calling. That's kind of what this is. It's a calling. So I found it funny that that happened, and I mentioned it to Marvin privately. I'm like, I mentioned to them, and didn't even know this, and then I sent him a message saying, get in here also into this live, and realized he was already here. So, but it's kind of funny how God moves his universe and moves us around in the universe. So, anybody else, feel free to unmute yourself and hop on in.
I'm back too, man. So, yeah.
Hey, welcome back, Anthony. See, Joe Lopez said, I've been noticing that the majority of the people I've recently come across while starting in this are believers, and I firmly believe that is absolutely vital to everything in our lives. And Veronica just commented. Go ahead.
Something that I think about and talk about. I have two of my very best friends on this planet are atheists, right? And they know my beliefs. And the only thing I ever ask them is this: I'm like, whenever I need a miracle to happen in my life, I feel like I know where to find one, right? I just pray, and then bang, the thing that I wanted or needed comes through. And then I'm like, well, when you don't believe in, like, and I guess in a higher power like that, then what do you do when you need a miracle, right? What do you turn to? So if I had to pick a few different versions of reality to exist in, like, I like to exist in the one where I can just pray and get a miracle, right? Above what their beliefs is. We've gone round and round and had hours of conversation about this, right? Again, one of my best friends. And yeah, I'm just like, dude, if I had to pick your life and my life, and dude's wealthy, super wealthy. But I'm like, if I had to pick your life and my life, I like my life better. So therefore, I like having that religious background or that religious backbone. And it doesn't mean that I think I'm better than anybody else. I use F-bombs. I do things that I'm not proud of. But I like having that in my corner as opposed to not having it in my corner. So whatever anybody thinks, oh, you guys are self-righteous or anything like that, or even talking about it from a business setting, right? And if somebody doesn't like it or they're turned off by it, like, man, I'm from Texas. You know what I mean? Like, I believe in my gun and my Bible, and that's something I'm never going to sway away from for the rest of my life. So if somebody's like, well, I don't like that guru because he talks about God, well, then we're never going to be friends in real life anyway, Pops. You know what I mean? So I think being firm in who you are, and then you connect with more people that are just like that, right? Michael Suarez, he wants to become a pastor probably, right? So it's like, I love being connected in business with people that are like that think about that have those same values. And again, I think the negative stereotype goes, oh, well, they think they're religious, or he claims he's religious, but he does X. But in my mind, I'm like, well, Jesus Christ himself hung out with a lot of like thieves and murderers and, a prostitute, right? So it's like, we're not going to church or being religious because we think we're high and mighty, but it's like, I go to church because I know I need to be in there. I know without God, my life will be nothing, and it'll probably go downhill pretty quickly. So that's not being righteous. That's me saying like, hey, I need this defense mechanism in my life so that things don't go awry. Right. So that's my take. Any other topics anybody wants to cover? I'm happy to hang out and have this conversation for a while.
Well, yeah, I think that's the key to what you just said. You know, none of us are perfect, but the thing is, we're actually seeking to be like Christ and, you know, seeking righteousness. So that's what's really important in my perspective.
Yep. And what reward system does a human brain have, right? Us as humans, the reward system that we have.
Positive comments, Marvin. Positive comments. Veronica said in the chat, I used to be part of the praise and worship team at church. What happened? Why are you not now, Veronica?
I felt like I had to take some time to myself because I felt like I was off balance, and I felt that that was unfair for me to go ahead and step on top of the altar without being completely straight with myself, you know? So I felt like I think all of us go through this. I'm not sure if everybody does, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's times when you feel off balance, you know, you feel like, yes, you know, you have to step down because you have an inner battle with yourself between being, you know, hearing all of this, you know, what they call worldly stuff, and also staying firm within the church. So it's like you feel off balance, you feel off, and you feel like you're not worthy enough to be praising God on the altar while you have all of these things going on in the background, where you're kind of confused at one point, like, who am I? What am I doing? You know, do I want to go this way or do I want to go that way? God, can I still worship you, still being imperfect and feeling off
The door is
balance?
open, so he smells it. Oops,
You
sorry
know,
about that.
does that make sense to anyone?
Yes, and I will counter that with get your butt back on the praise and worship team. Not a lot of people know this about me, but I stopped drinking 28 years ago, coming up on 29 years ago. When I feel like shit, I go to a meeting and I tell people I feel like shit and I'm on shaky ground. When I'm feeling great, I go to a meeting and tell people I'm feeling great. And here's what I did to get to feeling great. But it's more important that I go and tell them I'm feeling like shit and I'm on shaky ground and this is getting at me and that's getting at me. You know, I'm sure most everybody here was alive during 9/11. You know, I was, you know, one of many people alive during 9/11 and had friends who were in New York City. I had friends who worked in the World Trade Center, and it turns out I had friends who died there. And a whole lot of people, I mean, for an alcoholic and addicts and stuff like that, that is a freaky damn time. And, you know, my excuse to drink was Monday, Tuesday, pretty much any day that ended in the words day. So, you know, you throw something like that out there, a whole lot of people want to go nuts. And, you know, that shaked people's religious foundations. That shook people's spiritual foundations. You know, and, you know, we've got similar stuff going on now in the world. That's when you need to lean into it and be honest. I'm having a tough time. You know, part of leading praise and worship at a church is being honest and being out there with them and letting them know, here's what I'm feeling, and letting them pray into you. Sometimes you're there to take. Yeah. It's okay to go to church and take some days if that's what you absolutely need.
Yeah.
Just as much as it is to go there and give when you're able to give. Get back into that position. If that's something that helped you, you know, you're only putting yourself on shakier ground by stepping out of your support system.
Yeah,
just
that's what I was
experience.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing. Pretty much, I see the same thing. Like, that's when we should be giving more praise, you know, for the trials. It's only going to strengthen you, you know, as you get through it.
Exactly. Anybody else got anything? And believe me, I'm not bashing you. I'm not putting you down at all. Get back up there. You know, that's part of your support system. You know, get back into that, and you know, let them lift you up if that's what you need today. You know, I'm glad you're here and glad you told us. You know, we're here to, you know, we'll definitely lift you up here. But if that's one of your core parts of your support system, lean into it. Don't run from it. Exactly. Joe Lopez just said those. Let me get to the chat. Sorry, I'm on my phone. Those struggles are tactics, tricks, traps, etc., to steer us away from God. We've all been fighting that all of our life. He said he's been fighting that all his life. That's, Anthony was talking about, religion is part of his core thing. I'm not a religious person. Absolutely hate it. I will never stand by a religion. Just, it does not work for me. But I absolutely believe there is a God. I am not God. And I believe heavily in the spirituality in the universe and that connection. Without it, I am nothing at all. So, my place of worship is AA meetings, the beach, stuff like that, seeing my kids. So, yep. For sure. Well, looks like Anthony's going to be tied up longer than we thought. So let's go ahead and end this here. And I believe Jim will probably make this available for everybody. I agree, Joe. Can't stand religion, but love the Father.
Amen.
Thank God.
Yes, I
Love
was
the
going to
Father,
say
love
that.
the Son.
That's right.
Truly, absolutely. Do I believe he walked the earth? Yes. Do I believe he was his son? Yes. Do I believe he wanted us to sit in a church? No. That's just my experience. I mean, no offense to anybody who believes in it. If that's what works for you, thank God. We all need something. So
I think it's the relationship that you have with God that matters the most. It doesn't necessarily have to be within a church or, anything like that. I think it's your connection, your one-on-one time that you spend with him, on a daily basis, or, when you need him. Of course, we shouldn't only come to him in bad times. We should, stay humble and stay thankful for what's going on in our lives now. But I think having it's a relationship. It's not a religion.
Yep.
It's basically what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree, 100%. With that, we'll go ahead and cut this off. Daniel, if you want to go ahead and end the meeting, we thank everybody for showing up today and being part of this. Where Daniel's able to share the recording to everybody. I see the thumbs up. So thank you, everybody. Say a prayer for everybody that was in this meeting and everybody that didn't make it into this meeting. And remember the Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, the audio that's in the group. And everybody knows how to, if you don't know how to find your connection to your spiritual medium of choice, reach out. Any one of us will happily help you. So thank you all and have a great day. Sorry, go ahead.
So I just want to add here. So I was just to kind of just say from what Veronica was saying earlier, I pull out my book when I'm feeling like, okay, I really need to go grab this book, and I just open up a random page and I pray about it. And sometimes I'm like, is this for me or to share? And I was listening to you guys, and I was like, let me go grab my book and see what it has to say today. And when you just said to pray for someone, God was like, just read this. Everyone needs to hear it. And so we can just end this chat, but I'm going to read this to you guys. I just opened up to a random page. It says, when you do things, do not let selfishness or pride be your guide. Instead, be humble and give more honor to others than to yourselves. Perfect Lord, even as a man, you could have won every contest, silenced every argument, ended every debate. Your limitless ability and brilliance made you undefeatable. But that wasn't why you came. It's not why I'm here either, is it? I don't behave as though I know this. Forgive me, Lord. Help me remember that just because I can win doesn't mean I need to. Show me that most of my life is not a competition at all. Remind me that building others up and seeing their success often feels even better than winning, and it's far more pleasing to you. And then there's a question at the end that you guys can ask yourself. Are you competing with someone instead of building them up? And mind you, there is 365 pages in this book, you guys. And I just opened this up to a random page, and, that's what God wanted us all to hear today. So I just needed to share that and take that, however you will today for whoever needed that. But it spoke to me a little bit. So I'm grateful for, having this conversation with you all. And it, just like someone else said today, it's just amazing to have this team of believers, and I couldn't be more grateful to be a part of something like this.
Truly appreciate it. Truly appreciate and value everybody's time here. Love every one of you. Let's go out and take over the world today and spread some love and some success.
Awesome, everybody.
And with that, thank you, Anthony. Most appreciated, brother.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I'm glad to have these conversations. I think we talk a lot about business, and then I think we forget about the rest of everything else. And, I don't take us as one of those companies, that we're like hammering religion on anybody, but it all goes like into mental health. I'm really big on mental health. My dad, he went to Vietnam, right? So he's come back and he's the best dad any guy could ask for, but he's had some struggles, right? And so I've been around mental health my whole life. So everything that I do, everything that I say, everything I listen to, everything I watch, right? I watch almost zero TV. Everything that I do is to like make sure that I'm firing at my optimal mental health level, right? And that's exercise, diet, literally everything. And I think this is also part of it. So having some kind of, even if you're not religious, but so having any kind of like spiritual or connection to a higher power, super, super important, I think, from a mental health perspective. So I want to have more conversations like this to empower you guys to go out and do what you're going to do, And I do feel when I'm meeting with somebody, let's say it's like a very wealthy building owner, right? When I was doing big, giant commercial roofing projects, or a very wealthy ranch owner, I feel like there's possibly something that I have inside of myself that this guy would like to have, right? And that could be my health. It could be that strong spiritual sense that I have. And there's no place of comparison, like saying, hey, my spiritual strength is stronger than yours. But all I know is that my connection, I feel, is pretty powerful for myself. And I think that anybody would love to experience that, right? So when you're having these high level conversations or negotiations, you can use it in your business by knowing that, yeah, I do have a connection to God, and I do practice it often. And I think that gives me a powerful seat, right? I feel like me sitting across the table from that guy, I felt like no matter what happens in this deal, I'm still going to leave here and have what I have and feel how I feel. So it's very pertinent to business, and I think we should talk about this more often. If anybody doesn't have anything to share or any more questions, I think we're going to head out.
The book is 365 Days of Prayer for Women, Celia said, or Celisa, my apologies. Anthony, so glad you started this. Absolutely awesome.
Pretty cool. I'm going to try to do some more of these pop-ups. I wanted to do more of them. What's that?
Said needed this.
Well, we all do, right?
Pop-up. Yeah.
And we all do.
Great time.
I miss church on Sundays sometimes, right? I try not to miss at all. But I do notice when I get there, like you're kind of like spent your energy that week. And then you go on Sunday and then you feel like your cup is full, right? Like when you leave, you feel great, like for no reason. You're just feeling amazing walking out. And then you carry that with you all week, but you kind of like run out of that juice during the week and you got to go fill up again on Sunday. So I think these types of conversations, can all help us keep that full cup. And it's more than a positive mindset.
Oh, yeah. I walk in and I feel relief.
Yeah. I tell you, this morning I was starting to feel like pretty wound up. I'm like, okay, here comes a big day. I got a lot to do. I said, you know what? I'm going to stop first. I'm going to stop and pause first, practice what I preach, do what we have in the 10 commandments for the group, and slow it down. And now, I feel the same thing you're feeling right now. I feel like I'm ready to move in. But that was Lowe's that called on the other line, man, for that commercial site in Converse.
Awesome.
So we're having this amazing conversation, how getting your body in alignment, makes amazing things happen.
This good stuff happen. Yeah.
And then Lowe's, the hardware store, calls me on the other line asking questions about a commercial property I'm selling.
There you go.
So
look at God. That's all I got to say. Look at God.
Right. That's too coincidental. My dad would say there's no coincidence. There's only God incidents. So we're having this amazing, powerful conversation, right. how getting the feeling in your body, feeling amazing, makes things happen cool in your life, right? We talked about that at the open of this conversation. And then now, an hour later, I get a call from a big, like a gigantic buyer for our biggest deal right now, commercial deal. So there's about a $4 million spread on that deal, maybe 3.5-ish, but that's a significant size deal at any price. And I've been waiting for that phone call forever. And it came right here while we were having this conversation. So,
wow,
look at God. I mean, everything has, and I guess I can speak for myself, or I don't know if you guys have that same energy feeling, but everything has been God sent. So Alyssa and I have hopped on the phone several times, and we've said that everything has the way it has happened, the way it has connected, the connections that we've made, the relationships that we've built, all God sent. I mean, yeah, there's times when we don't know what to do because things just start snowballing for you, but it's all God, you know. And you know, Nisha and I have been on the phone as well, and we're like, hey, you know what? Right now we're working with small lots. Eventually, we want to work with big acreage, and boom, I started working with Anthony, and then I'm like, holy cow! Anthony tells me, don't be afraid of those big numbers. Work with big numbers, and so when I started thinking about it that way, I was like, okay, I'm not afraid of these big numbers. And, you know, come to find out, Anisha and I started getting multi-million dollar properties just snowballing on our laps within a week. And then we started talking about, hey, let's get into commercial. Hey, let's get into multifamily eventually. But God said, hey, you spoke it. I'm giving it to you. I don't know what you're going to do with it. You probably don't know how to work it, but I'm going to give it to you because that's what you're asking for. Right. So asking you shall receive, but also, you know, sometimes people say, hey, be careful what you pray for. Because God is just going to, you know, go ahead and bless you with what he believes that you can handle, you know. And so it is just a big, big blessing. God is good, guys. God is good. He's watching out for his people, and that's what he's doing. He don't forget about his children.
Love it, love it, love it. Okay, guys, I'm going to go to work now. I appreciate y'all hanging out, and then I'll try to have these more often. If y'all want to come on here and talk about some stuff like this more often. Thank you, everybody, for being on here. We'll see y'all soon, okay?
Thank you.
Catch you later.
Hey, guys. So the Hive Mind is launching a new program where we're helping you work deals that are valued at $1 million and up. If your deal is worth $980,000, we don't want to take a look at it. You can submit those deals to us at submitbigland.com, and we'll help you comp the deals. If it's good, we'll help you close it, and we'll also help you fund it and sell it. Check us out, submitbigland.com, milliondollarmastermind.com, and wholesaling $1 million land deals on Facebook. Thanks, guys.